In this video, I'm going to show you how to use our vectoric software to be able to create the drawing for our personalized sign. So to start, we're going to click on File, New, and we are going to create a part that has a width of 12 inches, a height of 5 inches, and the standard thickness for our corian, which is a material that we're going to be using to cut this out, is a half of an inch thick. Our units are going to be in inches, and our Z0 position is going to be the machine bed. When we are doing these, we always want to go from our machine bed so that we know that we're able to get all the way down, and we also have less of a chance of risk of cutting into our material if we accidentally set something up wrong. So we want to double check and make sure that our Z0 position is our machine bed. Double check that your XY data position is going to be in the lower left hand corner, which is represented by this red dot right here. This is going to be our origin where everything is starting out from. So we'll press OK there. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to create an arc, and it's going to be through 3 points. Our start position is going to be 1 in the X and 3.5 in the Y. So it's going to come in an inch, and it's going to be up 3.5 inches. And our endpoint is going to be 11 inches over by 3.5 inches up. And our height is going to be 0.75. So if I were to create that, we have our arc right here. Starting point is X is 1, Y is 3.5. Our ending position, our X is 11, our Y is 3.5, and then our height, which is the distance from here and there, is going to be 0.75. When we're done with that, we're going to hit close. The next thing we want to do is we want to make an arc that's going to be down here, which is going to match this one, just offset a little bit. So we want to make sure that this is still highlighted, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on offset, which is in this lower left hand corner. And we notice that there's a little black dot. And when we have single line vectors, this little black dot right there is really important. When we are deciding whether to go inwards or left or outwards or right, if we have a closed vector, it's a little bit easier because it's either on the inside or in the outside. But when we have a single line vector, you want to imagine that you're standing on this black dot and you're looking down the line. So to be able to get this one set right, I want it going down, so that would be on the right hand side of my little dot right there. And I want to have a distance of 3 inches. So we click offset, and now we've got these two arcs. The next thing I want to do is I want to close these up. So I'm going to make sure that this is still highlighted, and I'm going to hold down shift and click on that bottom vector right there so that both of these are selected. And we can join or close these vectors with a straight line by clicking on this button right here. We'll click it once, and that will close down one of them. And then we'll click it one more time, and it'll close down both sides. So now we have our outline of our vector. The next thing that we want to do is we want to offset on the inside to create that little lip right there. So we are going to go back to our offset, click on that. And now it's a little bit easier. We can tell that we're going to be inwards. So we click there. And my distance is going to be 0.375. And we click offset. And now we have a nice squared corner offset vector. If we accidentally offset this, and you may have rounded corners, that's due to us not having this box checked right there. So if you want to keep these square corners, always make sure that we have create sharp offset corners selected right there. So now that we have our outside done, we want to make our 4 circles that are going to be our holes. So I'm going to come up to our draw circle, and we want to make sure that we have a diameter of 0.125. Now, if you accidentally hit a radius and type in 0.125, the diameter is actually going to be 1/4 of an inch. but what we want is we want to have our diameter of 0.125, which is 1/8 of an inch. Now when we draw these circles, we're going to have it halfway in between these 2 points. And we're going to be using a pretty cool tool in our Vectric software to be doing smart snapping. So we want to make sure that we have both of these first 2 buttons up here selected. And you know that they're selected when there's a little square around them and that they're blue. So we want to make sure that our geometry snapping is on, as well as our smart snapping. So make sure that both of those are on. And we're going to come to our first corner, and we can see that the computer highlights it with a point. We're going to go to the second corner over there, and then we're not going to click or anything. We're just going to hover our mouse over there, and when we bring it back to the right, we can see that there's a yellow dotted line that connects the two. And when we bring our cursor back, we can see that the cursor actually changes into a little 4-pointed arrow, and that's the center point. So once I get there, I'm going to click it, and now that circle is, the center point of this circle is exactly between that point and that point. I'm going to go around to the other 4 corners to be able to do this. And once you get it down, it's pretty quick and easy to do. All right, now that we have our 4 holes, or our 4 circle vectors that represent holes, we're going to put some text in here. So I'm going to go to Draw Text. And our text right now, we can put wherever we want. We're going to be editing this, and we are going to be changing as we go. So you can put whatever you want in here. For our size, we're going to want to start off with 1.2 inches. We may have to edit that later. And some fonts that work real well, we can use Arial Black. Times New Roman works really well. So does our Geared Slab Extra Bold. What we want for this is we are going to need to be using chunkier fonts. So we don't want to be using stencil fonts or like Algerian or any of these script type fonts or very fine fonts. We want bold fonts like our Arials and Comic Sans, or we have some other ones around here. This one would work well as well. So for this one, I'm going to be using Gear Slab Extra Bold, and I'm just going to put in our mascots, which is the Wildcats. We'll type that in there. And then I'm just going to drag it so that it is roughly in the center of our plaque, and we'll hit close. The next thing I want to do is I want to curve this text so that it matches the curve of our line right there. So I want to make sure that our text is selected. I'm going to hold down Shift on our keyboard, and then I'm going to click on the inside line right here. On the left-hand side, we're going to click on Text on a Curve. So we'll click there, and you'll notice that all my letters just kind of bunched up in the corner. And what happened is the computer put all of our text on that vector. And we see that there's a new gray box that appeared right there. I'm going to click and hold and drag that gray box to the center of our part. Now, if we have something like this, where when we drag it, it's a little bit difficult to center it, that could be due to the gray box being to the left-hand side, and we can change our text alignment right here. So we want to select the middle, and then we can snap that straight to the center of our vector curve. The next thing we want to do is we want to do an offset distance, and depending on the size of your text, what we're going to want to do is just play with the offset distance. A good one to start with is just 1/2 inch or 0.5 for an offset distance. And you'll know it's a decent offset distance when the top little arc right here is lined up or really close to where that lettering is. So I could go a little bit higher possibly. We'll try 0.55. and that's a little too far, 0.52, and that lines up pretty well right there. The last thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have plenty of spacing in between our letters, because we are going to be having a mill bit that actually comes through here. So I want to take my text spacing, and I'm just going to space it out just a little bit to ensure that we can get a mill bit that goes in between all of our letters. All right, so there's our finished vector drawing. We created our arc, did an offset, closed that off. We put in our circles. We have our offset on the inside, and then we put in some text and then wrapped it to that curve. On the next video, we'll show you how to run all the tool paths on this project. Before you close out, just make sure that we save it. And how you do that is you go File, Save As. And I will just name this as Wildcats.